Hi everyone, this is Ryan, and welcome back to this presentation on my DNA ancestry as the results are in. In presentation 22B, in reverse, Danny said this. And in presentation 9B, Danny said, So after that and multiple other recordings of budgies mentioning my ancestral past, I decided to pay for a DNA test. This test brought out some very interesting facts about those who have connections to my ancestry. Keep in mind, I'm not a DNA expert and currently have no idea of the statistics that resulted from the test. However, as time passes, we may learn more. So here's the start of my DNA test. As you can see, I used CRI Genetics, which I'm not affiliated with in any way. Here's my name here, and these are the areas down here that I did that I paid for: the recent analysis, advanced analysis, I got an advanced timeline, a maternal haplo. I didn't get the paternal haplo, which is, I think, has something to do with my father. And I got the famous people. So I'm going to briefly go over each one of these reports with you and show you what happened. So let's try first with the recent analysis. So this apparently goes back, represents your last 5 generations. So as you can see in the report, that even though I live in Canada, all my ancestry comes from Europe, and my grandfather was Hungarian, which is right here. I find this one quite interesting because what happens with early civilizations, it's hunters and gatherers started out in the Turkey area and further south, and then they started moving up towards Italy, Germany, France, and England. And this one right here is, let's enlarge that a little bit, is in Sofia, Bulgaria. Okay, it says 15% of my DNA was from Southern Central Slavic. Now, the interesting part I find right here is that it's only several hundred kilometers away from Turkey, and right in this area right here is Göbekli Tepe, which is supposed to be the earliest known religious civilization ever found, and it's recently been dated back to 14,000 years BC. And the closer you get to the time that you are, the less, so I've got 15% there, so the next would be, if I go over here, for example, 13%. So these two areas are probably fairly close. There's 10% there of my DNA, and as we go up to Germany, which is later than those other ones, I'm starting to get more from Germany. And then as we get up in United Kingdom, 16% there. The interesting thing about Turkey is that a lot of people think that the Garden of Eden was in Turkey, and in the area of Euphrates River around in Iraq, around in those areas. So it looks like I got some ancestry which is fairly recent, in the last 6 generations that came from that area. So now let's go back to the dashboard here and look at the advanced analysis. The advanced analysis shows a little bit about the history of the human race, and it dates back thousands of years and goes well beyond the 5 generations. So if we look at this again, some of the earlier ones that I have here, like this one, is like 0%, but there must have been something there, otherwise they wouldn't have. And 0% there, but then as we move up towards places like, there's 1% from Bengali, 2% from as a Gujarati Indian, Punjabi, and let's have a look a little bit closer. And again, we get up into these areas here with Northern European. Most of the DNA is Northern European, and that and they're pretty. Most of the people did migrate to that area, and 20% from Northwestern European. So you'll see a lot of that, the DNA that comes from me, from that area. All right, let's go back to the dashboard there. And the advanced timeline. So this goes back quite a few generations. It starts at 4 generations back, and it ends at 61 generations back, which was 475 year AD. And I'm not going to go through every one of these because there's quite a few of it, but most of them are Northwestern European. There's a little bit of Japanese in some of the chromosomes that I have. Gujaratian Indian, which was mentioned before. Northern European. Again, Northern European. Sri Lankan. There as well. Northwestern European, and it keeps on going and going and going all the way down to this one here, which is Northwestern European, and the person lived around the year 475 AD, so that's 61 generations back. So there's not really much you can learn in that, except that they do go back a lot of generations to see where your bloodline actually came from. Now this is the maternal haplo, okay, and it basically this would be me. So it goes to my mother, which it was from my grandfather, who was Hungarian, and then it goes to my grandmother and where she came from. So a lot of that, and it tells me that I belong to the haplogroup T2. Now I found this kind of interesting because MT is the supposedly the first Eve, and how close we are to that bloodline. And as you play it, it shows you how each group. So there's my haplogroup is T2, and it shows you where that all started out in that area, and then the T2, it ends up at T2 right here. So if we go down and we enlarge that, over here again, we're right in Turkey, right in that area again of the I'm right in that area, and ancestors were in that area of the where some people think the Garden of Eden was and Göbekli Tepe was. So that was kind of interesting to me as well. Okay, let's go back to the dashboard again, and now this one, the famous people one, I really found interesting. First one there is Eva Longoria, who was born in 1975. She's an American actress, and one of the most influential philanthropists and social entrepreneurs worldwide. This one right here I found interesting. Momia Juanita. She was a mummy that was known as the Inca Ice Maiden and Lady of Amparo. I guess they did a DNA on her and thought she was sacrificed to the gods sometimes between 1450 and 1480, which is right around the time that the Spaniards came over to South America, I think. So that was my my mother's DNA. It says right here, from the female. And then we're going to the female and the male Y-DNA ancestry lines. The first one is Birger Jarl, and probably half the time I won't say these names properly, and his son Eric Bergensen. And Birger Jarl was one of Sweden's greatest medieval statesmen. He's the founder of Stockholm and acted as the regent of Sweden for 18 years, which is like the king. The next one, Emanuel Swedenborg, from 1688 to 1772, was a Swedish scientist and philosopher, theologian, revelator, and mystic. Now, this is the most interesting one for me because it relates to a lot of what we're doing. And if I do a search, find out that he was an inventor and a scientist, and at 53 he entered into a spiritual phase in which he began to experience dreams and visions, beginning on Easter weekend on the 6th of April 1744, much like me. And he had a spiritual waking, in which he received a revelation that he was appointed by the Lord Jesus Christ to write the heavenly doctrine to reform Christianity. According to the heavenly doctrine, the Lord had opened Swedenborg's spiritual eyes so that from then on he could freely visit heaven and hell to converse with angels, demons, and other spirits. So we definitely got a lot in common because I almost do exactly the same thing. I converse with angelic spirits that are passed on through budgies. However, I don't converse with demonic spirits. And whether or not that's an actual fact that he did is something that I still haven't researched fully about. And for the last 20 years of his life, he wrote 18 published theological works and several more that were unpublished. He termed himself a servant of the Lord Jesus Christ in the true Christian religion, which he published himself. Some followers of the heavenly doctrine believed that of his theological works, only those that were published by Swedenborg himself are fully divinely inspired. So you have to admit that much of what he did, I'm doing now, and this is the first time I heard about this, and that we're connected spiritually in our bloodline. So that's very interesting to me as well. So the next person that's on the list is Alexander Hamilton, 1755 to 1757. Or, sorry, 1755 to 1804. He was an American statesman and one of the founding fathers of the United States of America. And he did a lot of things with banking and the National Bank and other things like that. So that was another interesting one. And down from him is Andrew Jackson, who was from 1767 to 1845, and he was an American soldier and statesman. He was the 7th President of the United States from 1829 to 1837, and then he was the founder of the Democratic Party. And this next one here, Leo Tolstoy. Probably don't even pronounce it right. He was called Count Lev Nikolaevich Tolstoy. He was a Russian writer who was regarded as one of the greatest authors of all times. His parents died when he was young, and his teachers described him as both unable and willing to learn, yet he is known for his writing, including the novels of War and Peace, Anna Karenina, and they're often cited as pinnacles of realistic fiction. Now, I did a search for him as well, and here's a little biography on him. Here's one. It says, the culmination of Tolstoy's thoughts on religion can be found in A Confession on Other Religious Writings, 1879 to 82, and It's for those who are interested in philosophy and religion. And I think there's more on him about having followers and starting a new religion, but you'll have to look that up on your own. And down from Leo is Calvin Coolidge, which was the 30th President of the United States and the 29th President. And after that, I'm related to the crest of the House of Grimaldi, which includes the then Lord Prince of Louis II of Monaco. The House of Grimaldi also produced 3 Doges of Genoa, and a Prince of Salerno, and several archbishops and cardinals. The current Princess of Monaco descended from the House of Polignac. The House of Grimaldi is associated with the history of the Republic of Genoa, Italy, and of the Principality of Monaco in France. And down from the original House of Grimaldi, it looks like I'm also related to, in some way, to Warren Buffett, which is a multi-billionaire. Geez, it'd be nice if I get him to fund some of this research and religion. Down from there, Kenneth Leon Nordfeld, who was born in 1939. He's a professor at Emeritus in the physics department of Montana State University and a senior researcher specializing in relativistic theories of gravity. I also did a little bit of research on him and found that he's also very interesting in his genetic roots as well. The next one down from that is Bill Clinton, who is the 42nd President of the United States. And then there is Sting. I always thought I liked Sting's music. Maybe that's the reason why. And the last one on that list is Nasir bin Ula Dara Jones. And he's an American hip-hop recording artist and sold over 25 million records worldwide. So let's just do a recap on those one more time. So on my mother's side, Eva Longoria, which is an actress. Mumia Juanita, which was a mummy from 1450 to 1480. Then there's Birger Jarl, which was a king of Sweden, or he was from almost like a king, but he was known, his dynasty was known as the House of Bjelbo. And then there was Emanuel Swedenborg, who was much like me and a mystic and a Christian who was talking to the angels. Then there was Alexander Hamilton, who was one of the founding fathers of the United States of America. And then there was Andrew Jackson, which was a president of the United States. Then there was Leo Tolstoy, which was a Russian writer who was regarded as one of the greatest authors of all times. Calvin Coolidge, another president of the United States. The original House of Grimaldi, which is related to the Princess of Monaco and the history of the Republic of Genoa, Italy, and of the Principality of Monaco in France. Warren Buffett, a multi-billionaire. Kenneth Nordfeld, which was a professor in the physics department of Montana State University. Bill Clinton, another ex-president. Sting, a songwriter, used to be part of Police. And Nasir bin Olu Dara Jones, which is a hip-hop singer. So I think that's it for now, and I hope you got something out of this presentation. This completes this presentation. Thanks for listening. If you'd like to join us, you can come to theangelscrolls.com and click onto the forum link at the top, where we will be adding the newest presentations. Bye for now.